Good day, fantasy followers. This is Fantasy Flyer, episode 39. My name is Derek. I'm here in a fantasy pad next to a Christmas tree that is starting to get deconstructed. Taylor, how are you?
In the on the go dojo once again, but in the neighborhood. Just had to relocate for the day.
Had to relocate for the day. He has a traveling Gojo Dojo Mojo Jojo set. And he can bring it with him everywhere. I can too now, which is the beauty of this new mic set. It is currently Saturday, a little after 12 o'clock. We're filming a little later than normal. Last night, Taylor had some things. Yesterday, I had some things. I'm still not over my things. I am very sick. Get down with the sickness. Little sore throat, little nasal thing. I look a little paler, which I said when we started up the video the first time. I was like, wow, I definitely don't feel great. I got a little coffee here to keep me going. Dayquil in the system. I don't give up. I don't stop.
Derek got bit by a vampire.
I might as well. Yeah, vampire. This is definitely the time of year where they come out. Snow just screams vampire. Week 18 is here. We don't have. I mean, we're obviously this is a half football, half fantasy. This is where fantasy meets the field. That's what we talk about. We do not have leagues anymore. They're, for the most part, if you're in a quality or even half decent quality league, they are done before this week. And when we go over the rest of the show, you will understand why they should be done before week 18. Because some of these over-unders, some of these spreads are a mess. Absolute mess.
That's terrible.
Denver has is 3-point favorites against the Chargers. Don't know why. Atlanta is 4.5 points over Tampa Bay. I mean, we know why. They're sitting people because it's week 18 and it's going to be a little bit of a crap fest. So, however, Taylor is still in charge of the 9. He is the head of the 9, the guru of the 9. So we will, as always, start off every episode with the 9. Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Kick it off with some more DeMar Hamlin news. Good news. He was able to video conference with the team for one of the team meetings. So he is, it's great news. He's conscious and off the oxygen. Looks like he's on the up and up, and I know it's a long road to full recovery for him, but this is all very good and promising news. So love to hear that. And then not to move on, but to continue on with our football news. Just going to kick off the show by saying use late swap if you're playing DFS, because there's going to be a lot of things that are changing, and we'll get into that as we talk about the individual teams and whatnot. For Arizona, reminder that DeAndre Hopkins and Colt McCoy are out. David Blau will be starting again. Blau. James Conner and Robbie Anderson are also out. For Baltimore, Tyler Huntley with a shoulder and wrist injury is questionable, was limited all week. I think that he's had these ongoing, and he's been kind of in the same boat. So I would imagine he starts. To that end, Lamar Jackson is out. Deshaun Jackson with an illness is questionable. He's made some appearances. Doesn't really change too much. Carolina, Deonta Foreman with a knee injury is questionable. That was added to the Friday report. So that is not ideal and kind of trending in the wrong direction. So keep an eye on that if for some reason you were looking at Foreman. Chicago, reminder, Justin Fields with a hip injury is out. Nathan Peterman starting. He is not even available. Or no, sorry, he is. I was thinking of Glennon, who will probably be the backup for some team that I'm drawing a blank on. I think I have it here somewhere. Denver, reminder that Marlon Mack was put on IR. Kendall Hinton with a hamstring injury is out. Detroit, no actual injury notes, but just a note about the matchup. If Seattle wins against the Rams at the 4:25 game, then the Lions, who are in the late Sunday night game against the Packers, will have nothing to play for. They can't make the playoffs, so they may end up sitting a bunch of guys. Houston, Philip Dorsett, hamstring injury is out. Indianapolis, Nick Foles, rib injury is out, so Sam Ellinger should be starting. Kylan Granson, ankle injury is out. Kansas City, Sky Moore with a hand injury is out. Mecole Hardman, some sort of pelvis injury is questionable, was limited Wednesday and Thursday. Las Vegas, Josh Jacobs with a plethora of things, hip, oblique, personal. He did not practice Wednesday and Thursday and is questionable. Derek, it looks like you were talking, but I did not hear anything.
No, I was just mouthing.
Okay.
I was just mouthing the word plethora. You used plethora, and I liked it, and that was all it was. So I'm gonna let you keep going. But
Okay.
I do have myself muted, so I'm listening. Don't worry. I just don't want you to hear myself cough, sneeze, or anything else.
Yeah, fair enough. Appreciate it. The Chargers, no injuries of note, but so they are currently the sixth seed. They could bump up to the 5 seed if the Baltimore Ravens lose before they play before them at 1 p.m. So if they don't lose, if the Ravens win, then Los Angeles may end up resting players because they can't change their seed. So pay attention to that. Miami, Tua is out. Teddy still says questionable, but most everything I've read is that he is not going to play. He has a dislocated right pinky finger, as well as some knee injury. I don't see how he plays, and everything I've been hearing, reading, suggests that Skylar Thompson will start. I believe he also got first team reps. And this is the guy I was thinking of. They signed Mike Glennon to the practice squad. I mean, he's going to be the backup, but he doesn't even show up on DraftKings. So if you wanted to play Mike Glennon, you cannot. Minnesota, Irv Smith, they plan to activate him off IR. We sort of touched on this 1 or 2 shows ago. Not sure that it changes too much because Hawkinson is there. New England, Devonta Parker, not on the injury report. A bunch of other guys that have been also not on the injury report. Stevenson, Harris. So that's all good news. Jacoby Myers is questionable, was limited all week with a shoulder injury. Jonnu Smith, concussion, limited Thursday and Friday. Marked as questionable as well. New Orleans, Juwan Johnson with a quad injury, questionable. Taysom Hill with a back injury, questionable. New York Giants, they are in a spot where they're in the playoffs, but they can't play for anything extra. They can't change their seed. They are where they are. So we haven't read anything specifically saying they're sitting players. However, the Vegas line kind of suggests that they may be sitting players. So pay attention to any Giants players you may be looking at, DFS otherwise. The Jets, Mike White with a rib injury is out. Flacco starting. CJ Uzama with an ankle injury is questionable. So if Conklin wasn't already a potential good sneaky play on DFS, then if Uzama's out, it makes it even better. Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts with his shoulder injury, still questionable, limited all week. I do want to pause here because, yes, the Eagles are playing for something here. If they lose, San Francisco has the potential to take that number 1 seed. That being said, they're playing the Arizona Cardinals. And I just don't see, there is a very small probability that the Cardinals could win. They have Blau as their starting QB. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have James Conner. I just don't see the point in playing Hurts. I think they should go with Minshew. If it were me, that would be my decision. But maybe they want to get honestly, if they want to give him like one session, like one drive down the field, sure, go for it. Make sure he's doing okay. But I don't see him playing a heck of a lot of snaps. That's just me. But anyways, San Francisco, Elijah Mitchell. Coming off of IR, head coach Kyle Shanahan said on Thursday he expects him to come off of IR prior to Sunday's game. That is good news in the sense that, and did I just mess up a matchup? Eagles play the Giants. I don't know why I said the Cardinals. What I was thinking was,
yeah, I was a little confused
thank
as
you.
well, but I figured you'd catch on.
Yeah, I jumped ahead. The Niners are playing the Cardinals. which is why the note about Elijah Mitchell is relevant. As I just mentioned, not a team that we're scared of. So the Niners may actually play Elijah and give McCaffrey a bit of a rest. Maybe they'll give him a couple drives, whatever. But Mitchell may be a sneaky play coming back off of IR. But going back to the Philadelphia Giants, it's still a scenario where the Giants aren't playing for a heck of a lot. They're already in the playoffs. They can't change their seed, so they may sit a bunch of guys. Therefore, probably a matchup they're going to win with Minshew regardless. Moving on to Seattle, Tyler Lockett with a shin injury is questionable. Head coach Pete Carroll said on Friday he looks good and expects him to play. Tampa Bay. This is another one where the Vegas line suggests that they're going to sit a bunch of people. The coach has been suggesting that they are going to play people. Maybe they play them for a quarter, for a couple drives, whatever. But this is another team where they're not playing for anything. They've locked up the division, their seed, so they are where they are. I would imagine that at some point they're going to sit a bunch of people. Julio Jones with a knee injury is questionable, did return to limited practice on Friday. Tennessee, Derrick Henry, not on the injury report, expected to play Sunday. That's a reminder from Wednesday's show. Traylon Burks with a groin injury is questionable. Washington, reminder that Sam Howell will be starting. Antonio Gibson, wow, knee and foot injury headed to IR. Brian Robinson with a knee injury is out. So Jonathan Williams and Jarrett Patterson are the healthy running backs. Williams has been the number 3. Patterson's also been a little banged up. It's tough to say exactly. I would imagine it's Williams, but maybe he was there for special team purposes. And now that they're both healthy and the other guys are out, we may see, I don't know, 50-50, Williams being the older guy, Patterson being younger, that maybe they want to see more of what they have in Patterson. I don't know. They are sneaky plays, but it's tough to say specifically which one will be the guy you want. That is it for the 9.
All right, good stuff. I am cleaning up what we were going to do later in the show. I did pretty well while you were doing the 9. A very chalky 9. Not a chalky. That's a bad word. Thick. There we go. It's a thick 9. Thick 9. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, this show is not so much about the teams playing themselves. It's a parlay betting. You know, we're going to kind of go into DFS and some parlay builds a little bit more than we have in previous weeks. It is interesting because of all of the who's going to sit at halftime, who's not going to sit. You have to target those teams that are playing for something. There is probably, I'd say 6, maybe 7 teams that have to run everybody out there until it's a blowout in either direction. And that at least guarantees you 3 quarters. So for once this season, we're not afraid of blowouts hurting our fantasy production.
Yeah.
It's more or less, those are actually kind of strong points. And if it's close and down to the wire, it's even better. You'll get 4 quarters. There's a lot of players that I just looked through on these that I just do not know. There's games that teams are playing for and they still could, like you said with Jalen Hurts. If this game's not entirely, whether it's theirs win or loss, do they play him after the first quarter? Do they play him after the first half? Dallas and Washington. Cooper Rush is priced up on DK. He's 5,200. Dak is his normal price. That's the gamble. A lot of backup quarterbacks are priced between 4,800 and 5,400 on DK. And there are even some starters in that range that have things to play for. Mac Jones is 5,000 on DK. It's not a strong matchup versus the Bills. But if he plays 4 quarters, is that better than 5,200 Cooper Rush, who may get a half? Probably. Right. So there's a lot to look at when it comes to this week. It's kind of tender in that manner. And so there's a lot. I have some DraftKings lineups we'll go over. I have some parlays picked out that I have built as best as I can. Some of them are not announced yet, which is interesting. But we will go over some of the actual football component to this. and then we will, of course, touch on those parlays and DFS. So, obviously, we're going to go over the games that matter. So, this is our Week 18 focus. First game that we'll chat about just a little bit: Lions and Packers. Green Bay 5-point favorites. Over under is at 49. We know the Lions have let. Well, they were good on rushing defense for like 3 weeks, and then they let the Carolina Panthers walk into the end zone like 9 times. And now the rush game is back to mediocre at best. We know their passing defense is not great. I mean, just being honest, it's not amazing. The Packers here have, I mean, they're 5-point favorites. They have to run everybody out here. This is one of the games where both teams are going to have to play 4 quarters. The Lions can't give up even if they're down by 15 points or 14 points in the fourth quarter. And the Packers can't let up until it's, under 2 minutes and you're leading by 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns or whatever it might be. So this is one of the games that I would target in a DFS capacity. The good news for that is that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback against the 32nd ranked passing defense. So he's one of my DFS locks on this game. You can trust him to be out there for at least 3 quarters, if not 3.5 to all 4. And then it comes down to whether you build around him. So I like Rodgers. This game is at 8 o'clock on Sunday night. It's the last game. And Taylor, you added in the Green Bay defense if Seattle wins.
Yeah, just as I mentioned at the top, if Seattle wins, Lions aren't playing for anything. They can't get into the playoffs, so they may sit a bunch of guys. Therefore, maybe a good opportunity for the get something out of the Green Bay defense.
That makes sense. They're 2,900 on DK. Do you have any of the FanDuel prices? Because I know I do not have the app. I did not follow up on that at all before we start recording. And that's okay.
I do.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, while he finishes looking that up, that also brings into question whether you see an entire 4 quarters of Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is 4,800. I don't like it. I think you're still going to see Aaron Rodgers play 2.5, 3.5 quarters. I don't think there's any reason. If I'm Detroit and I'm not sitting too many people either, to be honest. You're not risking a whole hell of a lot. If anything, you're going to see more. I think you're going to see more Jameson Williams. I think you're going to see the people who haven't played enough. Brock Wright, Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds. You might see Amon-Ra sit. Jared Goff will play because Jared Goff has made a name for himself as being stable. So that would be my take on it. It is plausible that you see them pull some people. I am erring on the side of Green Bay more in this matchup. If the game stays close and both teams are playing for something, then you will get the most out of the matchup. That is obviously where it becomes the most tender for your fantasy lineups. While he finishes looking that up, my parlay for this game, I have Christian Watson over 40 yards. You could probably go over 50 or over 60. This is not a secondary that Christian Watson should be afraid of. You can also swap in Alan Lazard in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Lazard has seen an increase in targets over his last 2 weeks. I like Watson a little bit more. St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown over 50 yards. That one's contingent upon Detroit having something to play with. Like I said, he's the one who I see sitting the most likely out of Detroit. Next likely would probably be DeAndre Swift because Jamal Williams is going to be a free agent. So let him play. Goff over 250 again. If this team has something to play for, he's going to be out there. He's thrown over 250 in 3 of his last 4 games. Green Bay, he's going to have to do it again, I think, if Green Bay is playing tough defense, and they've been better on the run of recent. I like DeAndre Swift to have a touchdown. He is priced up on DK 5,700. Jamal Williams is 5,300. He has better he's the receiving game, and now he's sticking his hands into the pot of usage that Jamal Williams is getting as a running back. I have AJ Dillon on the under yards. He is Yeah, at last check was 43.5. I think it's at 45.5 now. As I'm looking at it. Is that? It's a chart. It's not as easy. I should probably just check the app. So while you do that, I'm going to check the app again.
Yeah, so Rodgers on FanDuel is 7,100. The Green Bay
Priced up.
defense. Well, so yeah, I was going to note that. So there's a difference between FanDuel and DraftKings in terms of
Pricing.
the pricing and I believe the amount of players. No, actually, I guess it's the same. So yeah, they each take 9 spots. And FanDuel has a salary of 60K, whereas DraftKings has a salary of 50K. So that's why you see a discrepancy in pricing. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers 7,100 on FanDuel, as we mentioned, 6K on DK, and the defense 2,900 on DraftKings and 4,200 on FanDuel for the Green Bay defense. Was there any? Oh, Jordan Love was 6,100 on FanDuel.
That's a lot closer than 6K on DK and 4. Well, not a lot actually. That's 1,000 versus 1,200. Percentage wise, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
8% more of a cost differential. I think I like Rodgers on DK more than FanDuel at that. I know that there's more spots that you can put up on the FanDuel side, but I think I like his price. I mean, for comparison, Geno Smith is 6,000, Trevor Lawrence is 6,100. All three of those quarterbacks have things to play for.
Right.
So, I mean, out of the three, I like Rodgers the most.
Yeah, and at FanDuel, Geno is 7,300, and I don't have Lawrence because he is a Saturday.
You're on the Sunday. Yeah, you're on the Sunday. I was just realizing it. You're probably in the same ballpark though. I mean, it's probably going to be that low 7s.
Right.
So, I mean, Rodgers to me, just because of the defensive matchup, is the pick. And again, if Seattle wins, I think Green Bay's defense is not horrible. They don't have anything to play for. I do think Jared Goff will be out there.
Yeah.
But that's only, that doesn't mean Green Bay's defense isn't going to do bad. That just means they have more to play for. They have to win to get in.
Yeah.
Well, either way they do. I would imagine from a coaching point of view, you have to go into this game going, I don't care what happens in that Seattle Rams game. I am not going to base my game plan as this. I'm assuming Seattle wins, and I'm assuming Seattle loses. It doesn't matter. We have to win. So
Yeah. At this
we're
point,
practicing all the way.
Right, where they are in the standings, whether they win or lose, it doesn't really give them that much. Like, I don't see them changing too much on the draft board, so why not
Right.
go out and fight and show what you have at the end of the season?
Yeah. Especially if you're going to end up, like I said, winning a playoff spot. AJ Dillon's yards have gone down to 42.5. I'm still taking the under on that. I think he only had 30
Something like that.
last
Yeah.
week. He was just in the 30s. Aaron Jones is the one caveat to this is again the blowout factor, but you have so many these lates. This is why the late swap matters so much, because if you're picking on from a DK perspective or a daily fantasy perspective, you can swap between Dillon and Swift. You should have money left over. There are a lot of top tier names that are not going to play a whole game, and you can see it from a mile away. So, that's the parlay and the DFS for the first game. Second game, Seahawks and Rams. Seahawks 6-point favorites in Los Angeles, over under at 41. Seahawks, bad versus tight ends. Very, very, very shaky versus running backs. The Rams are bad versus wide receivers. I am not targeting any of the quarterbacks from the Rams side. No for no Baker Mayfield. Sorry, see you next year. Geno Smith, obviously, with him having the most to play for. The Rams are only trying to play party pooper. The Seahawks, I think, are going to go all out. Tyler Lockett, like you said, is questionable. Don't see him not playing. Can't afford to not have him play. DK prices. DraftKings Metcalf is 6,700, and that's not on DraftKings, but his first initials are DK, and that's just interesting. Tyler
7,200
Lockett,
on FanDuel.
Lockett 6,400 on DraftKings. I imagine he's probably 68 or so.
6,900. Yep.
69 on FanDuel. My parlay build, I like this entire Rams offense has been based around Cam Akers. I've been Akers over 70 yards. He's done that his last 3 games. Geno Smith over on passing yards. He's 237.5. Again, Rams not great at defending wide receivers. He has all of his options. No fan. Colby Parkinson, assuming Tyler Lockett plays, don't know why he wouldn't. DraftKings Metcalf is out there, still being 6'9" and 3,000 pounds, and he will take down all of your wide receivers. Ken Walker over 50 rush yards. You could probably bump that to 70 or 80. I'm gonna look up what his what's the word I'm looking for? His over on yards is right now. You'll get more points for that. Where's the Seattle game? They just tell me that they're not gonna. There it is. I was about to say that was about to be rough. 77.5 over under on his rush yards. You can buy yourself a little bit of wiggle room if you go at 60 or even 70. And I'm gonna go over on the total points here. Like I said, the Rams are just trying to play party pooper. If Geno Smith is going over on yards, if Kenneth Walker runs the ball substantially well, like I predict he can, there's no reason Geno Smith. There's no Aaron Donald here. He's been out. So there's no reason Geno Smith can't throw for 238 yards or more. Yeah, that's my parlay for this game. 4 legs of it.
Yeah, and just real quick on Akers. I mean, to your point about the Rams being like playing the party pooper, Akers has been ending the season phenomenally. Whether that is just them giving him more opportunities and making him a big part so that they can A, see what they have in him, or B, boost him up for some sort of trade. Because there was there was a lot of weirdness with him during the season, back and forth in terms of him not happy and McVay. I don't know. Anyways, they're using him a lot, so yeah, I like the over, and honestly, DFS as well.
Yeah, he's that's where I was leading to. 6,200 on DK, 7,300 on FanDuel. He's not my number one pick in that price range on DK. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but he is a strong option because he's the only consistent in that Rams offense.
Yeah.
Other DFS target, Geno Smith. If you want to build a lineup around these 2 quarterbacks we've talked about so far, being Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith, by all means, I don't hate it. Geno 6K on DK, 7,300 on FanDuel. If my pair for him is probably going to be Lockett. They had a really good pairing earlier in the year. Geno threw his best games when Lockett was targeted the most consistent. Metcalf, I mean, you saw Lockett go out and you saw the Seahawks have a huge problem in the pass game. Not to say that Metcalf wasn't getting targets, wasn't getting catches, wasn't being productive, but Lockett he's a big part to Geno Smith. Yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks in that one. I think that will eventually play into Green Bay's, but Green Bay can't lose. So that's the one thing here is if Goff is going to stay out there, you're going to keep Green Bay true to Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Most consistent of those probably being, as far as receivers go, Romeo Doubs. But they have to go out and win regardless of what happens with the Seahawks. So from a coaching standpoint, I imagine that all of them will be on the field for Green Bay. Next game, Patriots at Bills. Buffalo 7-point favorites at home, over under 43.5. Let's see. I mean, 2 pretty decent defenses. Bills actually both of them are top 7 defenses in rushing. Just comes down to quarterback play. We know Josh Allen. I'll take over Mac Jones any day of the week. Mac Jones, we've said for the past 3 weeks, has to start learning how to become the average, the Kirk Cousins, the 250 and 2 touchdowns, don't turn the ball over quarterback. My parlay for this game, Josh Allen over on rush yards, it's 40.5. He probably would have hit that in Monday's game. I think he already had 9 or 12 when the injury to Damar Hamlin happened, and that was a little over halfway through the first. So, Stephon Diggs over 50 receiving yards. I still trust Stephon Diggs. Taking away Monday's game, actually, even in Monday's game, he had a reception for so many yards right off the get go. So, they need to get him more involved. Good time to start. Total points. I did an alternate total at 35. That was before this game went from 40.5 to 43. I would probably make it 37 now, just to help out your odds. And Ramondre Stevenson over 40 rush yards. It's time for a bounce back game for him. I do like the Bills locking him down, but he has been very good versus the Bills in general. So, as far as DFS goes, Tyquan Thornton. He was in my fantasy flyers last week. 3,300 on DK, 5,400 on FanDuel. He's seen 80% snap share or more the past 3 weeks. The only other option is Devontae Parker, who's 3,700 on DK, and I'm going to imagine probably near the 6K range on FanDuel. I did not write him down, so you wouldn't know to look that up, Taylor. I like him as a value option up and down the slate. This is a team that has to play for things. Bottom line. The Bills technically don't, but they also do.
Right.
So, because of last Monday's game and the NFL not playing it again. So I like Thornton in this one. He will be in a couple of my DK lineups. Anything else you want to add on this one? I like both passing attacks to come out of the gate here. I don't think it's going to be all run based until they start to establish a tone for their respective team.
Yeah. I have a sneaky suspicion this may go over. I haven't looked at the weather, but
It's warm up here.
Yeah, it has been warm. But I mean, Belichick always, kind of in the heads of the Buffalo coaching staff. So I'm hoping the Patriots will make a good game out of this, but Josh Allen is going to come out and play well, and the Bills are a good team, so they're going to put up points. You can't keep them back despite the New England team having a good defense. So I think I think there's a chance that this goes over and both teams put up some points. I won't say go crazy, but
Is the backup to Josh Allen as Case Keenum?
Last I checked.
I believe so. I didn't look at it because, again, the backup for this makes me scared. I like Mac Jones. Mac Jones is probably my quarterback of choice out of this game because, again, the Bills, they're either going to be in it and they're like, why are we running Josh Allen out there? Or they're not in it and they're going to be like, why are we running Josh Allen out there? So
yeah,
you have a solid running back core that Devin Singletary is a free agent. I don't know if you sit him. James Cook is a rookie. Get him some time. And use him.
right. Case Keenum is still the backup.
Makes sense. Last game we'll go over in part one. Jets at Dolphins. Miami 3-point favorites in Miami. Over under 37.5. This had no player or receiving props when I went to look at it. If I had to take some, Tyreek Hill over 40. I don't know where Skylar Thompson's yardage is going to be. I can't imagine it's going to be too far above 200 yards.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Probably makes me a little more scared about him. That does make me like Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson's rushing props, whatever they are. I mean, as long as they're not like 80 yards apiece. For the Jets, if you see a Corey Davis over 40, sure. Again, Joe Flacco is starting this game, and he likes to chuck it. Joe Flacco, probably over 250. That'd be my floor on this one. At 37.5, I don't think I want to touch that. I'd do an alternate of like under 40. I'll say under 45. Those all based on the FanDuel platform, FanDuel Sportsbook. There are, of course, other bets. You can see if you're talking pass attempts, over 40 for Joe Flacco, under 40 for Skyler, under 35 for Skyler. I like DFS wise, Corey Davis, 3,500 on DK, dirt cheap. Elijah Moore is 3,400 on DK. Why not? You get 3 or 4 catches and 30 yards out of them, and you get 2x value. Corey Davis is 5,600 on FanDuel. Excuse me. Jets defense. You can take a sniff at this one. This is probably my least favorite of our defensive picks. Just being completely honest, you still have to deal with Tyreek Hill. You still have to deal with Jalen Waddle. We've seen DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner be very good. So it's not horrible. It just depends on whether they get the yak, so to speak, which will only
Yeah,
help
or an interception here or there just because of Thompson playing.
And it'll probably happen. Thompson has thrown 3 interceptions in 3 games, I believe. 2,600 on DK for the Jets defense, 4,500 on FanDuel. Elijah Moore is 5,200 on FanDuel. Forgot to add that in. Actually, you added that in. I'll just say it out loud. Yeah. Miami has so much more to play for here, but again, Joe Flacco is. Why not? All the young players out there, go and throw it. You're 40 years old. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And they can beat this team with Skylar Thompson.
Right.
Let's just call a spade a spade.
And a mediocre defense on Miami side.
Yeah, middle of the road versus many things. Somehow Xavier Howard hasn't been amazing this year, and even when they added Bradley Chubb, the middle of the field has been kind of exposed at times. So Tyler Conklin, I guess Miami's been bad against tight ends, so I shouldn't say I'm not a fan of his. It just seems like Flacco's more wide receiver oriented.
Yeah, he definitely puts it down the field more than where Conklin usually rests. But I mean,
I say that as Conklin led the team last week at 6 catches, 80 yards.
Right. And I mean, to your point, the Dolphins are at least what I'm looking at ranked 30th against the tight end. So
yeah,
not the worst play.
I think I see 29th. It doesn't matter. Like if you're on a DFS platform, I don't have him. Let me real quick look up where he is.
51K on FanDuel.
3,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So it'll fill a hole, but the only thing is I don't think you're gonna have to use that value piece so much. There's so much.
I was gonna say there's a lot of other.
There's so much top tier that's not there. Who are you paying up for?
Yeah.
So that's we'll talk about that a little bit more. We're gonna take our first break right here. I'm gonna go get some more warm stuff for my very, very angry throat. Which it's just the way it is. Taylor, would you mind signing yourself?
I do mind.
What the French toast?
We will see you all on the flip.
We're back. It's part 2 of the Week 18 preview betting special for DFS and Parlay Builder. We'll keep going. We got games, a lot of games. 49ers and Cardinals. Next one. San Francisco 14-point favorites, over under at 39.5. I mean, Cardinals are bad at just about everything now. They've mailed it in for the year. DeAndre Hopkins is sitting this one out. Defensively, they don't guard running backs all that well, or specifically tight ends at all. And that makes George Kittle like my favorite play. San Francisco does have some things to play for. Kittle also missed a little time at the beginning of the year. I feel like he'll play a lot this game. I feel pretty safe in that. My parlay for this one that I'm going with, Kittle over 40 yards. Pretty straightforward. There's not another quarterback behind Brock Purdy. Is that correct? Besides Josh Johnson?
Correct. And the latest on Garoppolo is that he would possibly be back late in the playoffs.
Interesting. So Purdy, I think Purdy plays this whole game. I don't think they put in Josh Johnson at any given point.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it. They have, again, this game, the Cowboys game and the Eagles game are happening all at the same time. So you don't know, unless one of the other games is like 48-7, you don't know that the results made up. So Kittle over 40 yards, Kittle with a touchdown at any point. I feel safe in that one. I put CMC over 100, but you bring up a valid point with Elijah. If Elijah is going to take in, he was very useful during the games he has played this year.
All right.
Maybe I would put CMC over 60 at that point, lower it down, maybe 50 if you want even a lower ceiling. Alternate total points, I put over 39, but that would mean you could just take the over on the game. And actually, I don't hate it. I don't hate the over on the game. So take it, go with it. If San Francisco's actually going to win by 2 touchdowns, chances are this game will go into the over range of 39.5. DFS Targle. Right. I just mixed Kittle and Target.
I like that.
Yeah.
No, they're ignorant. That's ignorant.
DFS Target, George Kittle, 6K on DK, 7,600 on FanDuel. He has to be the top tight end option here besides maybe Mark Andrews, because both of those teams have things to play for. I don't know if I trust Kelsey to play the entire game today against the Raiders. Darren Waller's had 2 good weeks. He could be another option, but I have little faith after the first. Despite his 2 games, I have little faith because of the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Elijah Mitchell's 4K on DK, 5K on FanDuel. Sure, I don't hate it. I just wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up being close. If the other 2 games are close, that CMC stays out there. So that's my wary warning for Mitchell. Could be worse. You could end up going with, like, I don't know. Let me think of a team that's completely out of it. Cam Akers. That could backfire. Here comes Kyron Williams. Anything on this one from you?
No, I think, like you said, the Niners, I mean, the Cardinals are just horrendous and they're playing for nothing. They have nobody. The Niners should just walk all over them.
We hope. I mean, well, we don't really hope, but we expect. That's probably better. Next game, Giants at Eagles. We know what these guys are playing for, or one of these teams anyway. The Eagles have to win to not be a laughing stock of the NFC going into the playoffs. Because this was their division and only their division until week 14.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are, some Eagles fans maybe biting their nails. I think this is a good week 18 for you. I don't think you should be concerned too much. I really don't. Eagles are just the better team. The Giants have played well. I don't hate taking the Giants to cover this 14-point spread. Even so, here's the thing: there's no downgrade really at the quarterback position in ability. So Tyrod Taylor can still throw a 70% completion, 180, 200 yards in a game. He can still rush the ball. He is Daniel Jones light. You can pull Daniel Jones and still have some scoring ability. Matt Breida, we've seen him be instead of Saquon. What's the point in pulling any of these receivers? You don't have any to go back to. It's Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, and then yeah. Daniel Bellinger, play him, rookie. Get him some experience, especially against a top-tier team, top-tier defense. I don't see this, regardless of if they pull Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, I don't see this automatically being like, you're going to drop this team. Like, it's not like it goes from 14.5 to 21 on the spread.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the, this is one of the things I think Vegas looked at when they said, let's make it 2 touchdowns. It's in Philadelphia, so you're going to be up there anyway. Home crowd, definitely going to be raring and ready to go. They're going to want any and all kinds of scoring and no mistakes from Jalen Hurts, which you're more likely to get no mistakes out of him than Gardner Minshew. Let's be fair. But I don't think the Giants, the spread, I don't think the spread indicates what could be. I think this indicates what the floor is for this game for the Giants. They did lose 22-48 in this matchup in the first game. That was not during strong performance that the Giants have been on the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was. They're playing well. And if they're close, go ahead, Saquon. Go ahead, DJ. Be a heck of an upset. My parlay is going to have the cover in that 14 points. Hurts 200 passing yards. Miles Sanders over 50 rush yards. This team ran for 230 plus against the Giants in Week 12. Isaiah Hodgins and Barkley with 25 receiving yards apiece. Barkley is the shakiest of those two, like I said, because if you get blown out, they're going to pull him. He does have a history of injuries.
And I like
DFS
Breida.
target from
I like Breida from that
that's
standpoint as a sneaky play.
Yeah, it's contrarian as all hell. He, I believe, is only 40 some hundred on DK for the running back position, where the floor is 4,000. Other DFS targets, Richie James has been on a tear recently. 4,400 on DK, 5,900 on FanDuel. He's had more than 60 yards his last 3 games, more than 7 targets or more his last 3 games. Go ahead, why not? What are you gonna lose, really?
Yeah. And Breida is 5K on DK, DraftKings, and
Really? He's that much
6,300. Yeah, it seems like they may be anticipating what we're anticipating. He's also 63K on FanDuel.
Pricing him up. That makes me like Richie James more than him, though.
Value-wise.
In general, Richie, like I said, there's no one else to go to in this wide receiver pool.
Right.
You have Saquon, who inevitably will play some here. You have Breida, and then you also have the rookie Gary Brightwell. Gary? I think it's Gary. I know his last name's Brightwell.
It is. Oh, it definitely starts with a G. Why won't it? There we go, Gary.
It is Gary. See, I'm
Yep.
right. All right. He doesn't look like a Gary though. Just saying. Yeah, this is a tough game, I think, from a parlay standpoint, because it's one of the ones where if it gets completely out of hand, nobody's going to play from that is on these starting parlay lineups. Daniel Jones would be an under. Jalen Hurts would be an under. Miles Sanders will probably be an under. You can get a lot of money off of the anytime touchdown that is Boston Scott. If you remember our pre-show, I told Taylor this in the pre-show. If you remember our show from week 12, our preview show, I should say. Boston Scott has, at that time, he had 8 of his 16 career touchdowns against the Giants, and then he scored a touchdown against the Giants in week 12. He is now 9 of his 17 against them. This is lining up for him to be yet another beneficiary of some wackiness. So I may even put in a lineup that has him in there and just a bunch of unders in case this game gets so out of hand that nobody ends up playing in the second half.
And just real quick, Hodgins and Slayton also good value. All 3 wide receivers for the Giants are within 1K. So Richie James being the lowest, and then 4,500, 4,600 on DK.
Next game, the Saturday night game. It is 1:15 on Saturday right now. In about 6.5 hours, 7 hours roughly, we will have the 8:20 p.m. game that is the Jaguars at the Titans. Jacksonville, 6.5 point favorites. Over under 39.5. Actually, I lied. It is Titans at Jaguars. I have that backwards. Still.
Oh, did not catch that, but yes.
I just happened to look on FanDuel and it says right up top, Tennessee Titans at Jacksonville Jaguars. I put these in and I didn't double check most of them. So, surprise. We know what the Titans do. They run the ball. Josh Dobbs is starting. Smart move. Malik Willis, I'm sorry, did not perform as well as Josh Dobbs. Honestly, Dobbs is still, in my opinion, competing with Ryan Tannehill if I had the choice between the two. Derrick Henry over 70 rush yards is part of my parlay. Jaguars. Well, I mean, Derrick Henry runs through just about anything anyway, but he should be okay here. Christian Kirk over 50 receiving yards. Titans are 32nd versus the wide receiver position. Anytime touchdown scorer, Evan Ingram. Flash back a few weeks. Evan Ingram had 2 touchdowns and 160 yards against this Titans team. Why not? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Robert Woods over his receiving yard parlay or prop 33.5 as his yards. He had 39 versus the Cowboys, that Thursday night game for week 17. There's something there. I don't. Josh, again, it kind of goes back to Josh Dobbs just being a better quarterback as far as the passing game goes.
Yeah, and now he's had another week to work with the one, so hopefully more on the same page, more confidence. We liked what we saw from him.
Right. I don't have a Treylon Burks from FanDuel anyway. I don't have a Treylon Burks receiving prop. Is he out?
He's questionable.
That's why it's not up. Okay, I did not know that. I would probably take him at 50 yards. He had what do you have, 60 some last week against the Cowboys? Another 20 rushing. I'd take him over 50 again.
Yeah, he had 66 receiving yards.
Yeah, I would take that. I wouldn't hate that. I'm also going to go the over on this game total. Over under is 39.5. I know the Titans defense is okay, but this is a passing offense from Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's rush defense isn't exactly amazing. So I feel like whichever way either team goes, both teams can score. I see something like a 26-23 or 26-21 or 28-24 game here, and all of those are just about over. So, well, they all are.
With Dobbs, then it definitely allows for the Titans to actually put some points up. So don't expect like a 13-point game from the Titans like Malik Willis was putting up,
or Josh Dobbs against the Cowboys. But again, like you said, that wasn't with team one reps.
Mm-hmm.
Weather for this game as well as we hit 8 o'clock tonight will be, let's see here. Let's check. Right now it's 65 there. So, oh, okay. That's nice. 8 o'clock, it should be 52 degrees. So we don't have to worry about, and no rain in the forecast for Jacksonville. So, good game. See teams, both teams go over, I think. DFS targets in this game. You can pick just about any wide receiver on Jacksonville. Christian Kirk is 6,200 on DK, 7,500 on FanDuel. Zay Jones is 5K on DK, 6,600 on FanDuel. Marvin Jones has the best value at 3,600. Also the biggest or the lowest floor, I should say. 3,600 on DK, 5,500 on FanDuel. Evan Ingram is 4,500 on DK. Given the state of where other teams are and not trying to injure people, they're out of it or they're solidly in it, he's a good tight end option. Probably my second or third tight end option of this entire slate, all 15 games this weekend. Trevor Lawrence for the quarterback spot, 6,100 on DK, 8K on FanDuel. Wow, that's a lot. That makes me like him a lot more on DK. Like, yeah. I'll take him with Aaron Rodgers on an equal scale on DK. Mm-hmm. I would take Aaron Rodgers by a football field over him on FanDuel.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a big change in price on FanDuel.
Yeah. There's, what is it, 800, 700, 900?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that somewhere else, even on a slate where you're not paying up for a lot. I gotta take the Jaguars here. I mean, I know Josh Dobbs is gonna have an extra week. The offense, we hope, will look better. There's still Derrick Henry who's back, which is another thing this team didn't have against Dallas.
True.
Jags
have been playing really well though.
Yeah, I can't hate on the Jaguars that much.
Yeah. No, and I guess it's also kind of rooting for the Jags since they started off a little rough. They had a bad last season, and right. Titans, I don't know, they didn't, in my opinion, earn the record they had this season.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the division they're in.
Right.
They should have won at least. Those are 4 games that you should win between the Colts and the Texans. Those are most of the important playoff games. We will go over the rest of these in a smaller capacity right now. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other games that are going on. I'm just going to give you what I call the leg day at the gym, one leg of a parlay for these games that are probably going to. I have faith that they will hit. Cowboys and Commanders is the first one. Dallas 7-point favorites, over under at 40.5. That's an appropriate over under because Dallas, they won versus the Commanders the first time around. I believe that was with Cooper Rush, if my schedule is correct in my head.
I will double check, but that sounds right.
Okay. Cooper Rush could likely play the entire second half here again. I don't think that changes whether Dallas wins. I just think it changes the over under. I like CD Lamb over 70 receiving yards. There is a scenario where they don't play CD a lot here, in which case I have to kind of say T.Y. Hilton over 40 be my backup to that. I don't see any reason. They released James Washington on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Mhm.
We would rather take, I mean, that's got to be insulting. We're going to take the 33-year-old T.Y. Hilton over you.
Yeah.
Although T.Y. Hilton's played a lot better.
And you were correct. It was Wentz versus Rush in week 4. Dallas
Yeah,
25, Commanders 10.
If that happens this week, Carson Wentz should not be anywhere near the starting lineup. I'm so sorry. I understand why Sam Howell is starting this game. There's a lot of pieces out for Washington. A lot of pieces. Jonathan Allen, he's not playing. Brian Robinson is out as the running back position. This team is going to be different looking. DFS targets, take your pick on the running back for Washington. I like Jonathan Williams a little bit more.
I think so too, yeah.
4,300 on DK, 5K on FanDuel. Jarrett Patterson, 4K on DK, 4,500 on FanDuel, both minimum. Yeah, Jonathan Williams is my pick out of this one. So I'll take Cowboys in this one. I think this is, out of the matchups, to be honest, this is probably, San Francisco over Arizona is probably the easiest. But next is this one. Eagles and Giants is the one that can be tricky if you're not careful, but I still think the Eagles win that one. And they should. Next game, Texans at Colts. Are they in Indianapolis? Let's double check. Yep, Texans at Colts. Updated over under at 37.5, and it's still a 2.5-point favorite for Indianapolis. My leg day here is Zach Moss. He ran for 70-some yards last week. They're still not a fan of Deion Jackson because he has an attitude. So I'm taking Zach Moss over 80. If you want to give yourself a little bit more of a floor, it's 60. Sam Ehlinger is playing. Like there's no part of these wide receivers that I want. He's also Zach Moss is also my DFS target. 5,200 on DK, 6,800 on FanDuel. Yeah, why not? He seems to be the most consistent part of the offense now, which is what Jonathan Taylor would be if he was there.
Yeah. He's definitely get a good amount of use, and against a good matchup with the Texans.
Yeah,
you gotta like that. I will say that I feel like his value is mediocre. I feel like you can find better value from in terms of what we've seen from Moss. Like 80 rushing yards is a good line. I don't think he's gonna go ham. He has the opportunity, obviously, with a bad rushing defense from the Texans, but he's been 7.5, 8 points the past couple of games. I feel like his ceiling is somewhere around 10. 12. Yeah.
He's due for this touchdown that he's been, and this is a game where you can do it. We just saw
Right.
Travis Etienne shred Houston last week.
Yeah, and that touchdown will definitely make a big difference. If he gets that touchdown, he gets the 80 yards, he's somewhere in the 14-point range.
I don't see there being more than one throwing touchdown from Sam Ehlinger.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2. I see him with an interception somewhere as well. I don't see him with more than 250 passing yards, if he even hits 200. So that leads me to believe this offense has to run through Zach Moss for at least a little of this game.
Yeah.
Comparatively to what you were saying as far as his value goes on DK, he is not one of my top 3 running back options at 5,200.
Yeah.
He is just the most that you will probably find in this game. I don't want anything to do with Davis Mills, Philip Dorsett, Jordan Akins, Brandon Cooks doesn't look. I think he's still 5 something on DK. Maybe he's a little lower than that. It doesn't tickle my fancy at all to look at him. So
He's
me,
4,800.
he's 4,800. Yeah, I'd rather go with, like, honestly, Tyquan Thornton at 3,300 blows his socks off in terms of value, in my opinion. Next game, Chiefs and Raiders, Kansas City, 9.5 point favorites, over under at 52. This over under kind of tells me that they expect all of Kansas City on the field at all times.
Seems that way. I mean,
I don't know if I believe that.
I know that it is kind of weird. I guess if they were to lose and the Bills win, they would be tied. And would the Bills take the first spot and have the home field advantage or the bye week,
Well,
I guess?
That's the whole, whatever the NFL decided is that it's going to be like a coin flip or
Oh,
whatever
right.
the situation is. That plays into this.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest thing is that the Chiefs have to win. Okay, we understand that. Understanding that, the other part to this is that the Chiefs play on Saturday, everybody else plays Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost, I guess I understand them going and saying Mahomes is going to have to be on the field. So is Kelsey. So is all this stuff. I understand it. I get that where the over under is. I don't think this Raiders team pulls off two close games in a row.
Right. Yeah.
Especially against this Chiefs defense, which has been stepping up over the last 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine that the Chiefs do everything they can to get a sizable lead in the first half and then sit the notable players.
Chad Henne time. Noah Gray, get that anytime touchdown at plus 1,200 odds. My leg day at the gym is anytime touchdown for Isaiah Pacheco. I do think he will play most of this game regardless.
Rookie, yeah.
Rookie, he will be valuable to them, but I would rather, the way it's been looking, it looks like Jerick McKinnon in the pass game would be like, this is an opportunity to let Pacheco step into the pass game a bit. That'd be my take on it.
And that is definitely a weak point for the Raiders. So McKinnon could also do some damage in the first whatever amount they play.
Right. DFS target is also Pacheco, 5,600 on DK. Again, not one of my top 3 picks, but if you have to pick someone out of this, Devontae Adams is fine. There's no reason for this team to play him a whole hell of a lot. Mac Hollins would probably be number 2. I think he's in the low 4s on DK, if I'm not mistaken. I will double check because I have it up on my other window.
Yeah. I want to say Zamir White could be sneaky, but who knows?
He's valued anytime touchdown. So here's the interesting part. Anytime touchdown on FanDuel Sportsbooks. Let me pop it up just to make sure I don't quote myself incorrectly. He is like one of the top options, and this is going into Saturday. So starting to update as we get closer to. Travis Kelce is a minus 135. Pacheco is a minus 105. Devontae Adams is plus 120. Zamir White and Josh Jacobs are plus 125 for anytime touchdown. Yeah, Zamir White will be there next year. Josh Jacobs will not, at least as of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate taking Zamir White to play a lot in this game. Josh Jacobs is one of those pay-up options I don't see playing the whole game regardless of how it goes.
And he is questionable.
That too. Brandon Bolden is also a plus 125. He's sneaky for DK, but again, not one of my top 3 options value-wise. I'm still trying to find. He's got to be 3,000 then if I can't find him. I'm trying to find Mac Hollins here. He can't. Maybe he's not. I don't know. He's not 5,000. So yeah, he's got to be the minimum at 3,000. That's not a horrible play either.
I have him at 4,300.
43. Well, let me go and scroll up and see if I'm blind.
For some
Yeah.
reason, you got him.
Wait, you have 43 on FanDuel?
No, on DraftKings.
Oh, you know why?
It's
Oh,
yeah, DraftKings has a weird slate where they have everything but the Kansas City Vegas game.
yeah. I just realized that there's no Kansas City or Vegas in here at all. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, 4,300. Well, in that case, honestly, for DFS, you don't really have to worry much about it.
Yeah, you can only
So,
play him in the 2 game slate for today, as far as I
Yeah.
can tell.
Well, moving along then. Browns and Steelers. Pittsburgh, 2.5 point favorites, over under 40.5. My leg day here is Najee Harris. My DFS target's Najee Harris. He is one of my top 3 plays. He's 6,100 on DK. I will take 6,100 Najee, who has been booming the last 4 weeks, over Cam Akers at 6,200. I will take Najee Harris in a parlay over 60 rush yards. I'd probably put him anytime touchdown. He has been strong. The Browns are 30th against running backs in terms of fantasy points allowed. We mentioned on last Friday's show that the 2 tight end set for Pittsburgh has been tuned up. There's a lot of 2 tight end sets. That means they're running the ball a little bit more, or they're targeting their tight ends more. And we haven't seen the targets uptick, so that tells you which way it's going. Najee is, like, for me, this is who they should lean on at least a little bit. I don't hate Kenny Pickett. He is 5,000 on DK, probably in the low 6s on FanDuel. He also has, but I mean, we saw what happened in the last drive against the Ravens on Sunday. He's there. This team has something to play for, and it's because of their coach. They are 500. They need to get above 500 because Mike Tomlin has not finished below 500 in his career as a coach. Head coach, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a must-win. Pickett
And
6,600 on FanDuel, but yeah, if the Steelers win here and all the other teams lose, being the Patriots, Dolphins, actually it's just those 2, right? Jags don't matter. Then the
yeah, if the
Steelers would
Jags
make the playoffs.
if the Jags lose, they'd be out. If they win, they're in. And then
Oh,
the
right.
Titans have a worse record than any of those 3 teams because the Titans are 500.
Right. So the Jags need to win and the other 2 need to lose, or
And they could.
yeah.
Buffalo is not easy to beat for New England. The Dolphins will have Skylar Thompson against the Joe Flacco Jets, and they like to chuck it.
Mhm.
Okay. So Pittsburgh should be stepping up to the plate here as far as I'm concerned. Next game, Buccaneers, Falcons. Atlanta, 4.5 point favorites, over under 40.5. Again, this tells me there's some people sitting from Tampa Bay, and I don't hate that. Tom Brady's 45. Mike Evans just put up more receiving yards last week than Geno Smith had throwing yards in the game by 30, in case you're curious. Chris Godwin, sure, sit. I don't know. The only one who I like out of that other receiving core is Russell Gage. You can absolutely helicopter height dart throw Brashad Perryman, who likes to show up in situations like this and score a touchdown on 40 yards receiving. Russell Gage is 4,400 on DK, 57 on FanDuel. Cade Otton is 3K on DraftKings, 4,900 on FanDuel. Probably my 5th option. He's been miles out snapping
Cameron
Bray, and Bray, I don't think is even active. He was a healthy scratch last week. The sneaky part to this, as you noted in here, Atlanta's defense, 2,400 on DK, 3,400 on FanDuel. I don't know who the backup is to Tom Brady, but I don't trust them as much as Tom Brady.
I would imagine it's Trask. They probably want to see what they have in him going into the draft.
Maybe that'd be. I mean, this is a good team. If he can't do not extremely well, but if he can't put up positive numbers against the 23rd ranked passing defense, I mean, even with the depleted receivers, it's a valid point.
Actually, they have Blaine Gabbert second on the depth chart, but I still, yeah. I still got to imagine they want to see some of what Trask has, but we could see both Gabbert and Trask.
No, God!
Yeah, right.
all I got for that. If I'm a Buccaneers fan and you bought a ticket to this game, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My leg day here is Tyler Algier over rush yards. His prop is 62.5. He's been very good. Again, I don't expect the Buccaneers defense to care a whole hell of a lot about this game. They've fought through the war that is winning the NFC South. They are not going up, and they are not going down.
Yeah. And
They're
they've had
in
a lot
fourth.
of guys in the secondary that have been questionable off and on, so they might
They
choose
need
to.
the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to need everybody versus the Cowboys team, despite how much I think the Cowboys will blow that. Next game, Panthers and Saints. Saints, 3.5 point favorites, over under 41.5. My leg day here, Sam Darnold over 225 passing yards. Saints haven't been great versus the pass game. DFS started Rashim Shaheed, 4,200 on DK, 5,800 on FanDuel. Meh.
Carolina lets a lot of long balls happen, and that's what Shaheed has been doing for New Orleans. So
Meh.
yeah.
Taysom Hill. I'll bring up the name Taysom Hill. He's on DK. He's eligible at the quarterback position for 4,800. He scored a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 weeks. He has been. I mean, again, as a utility guy, that's somebody at 4,800 you can see getting 12, 14 points. Andy Dalton ain't with the team. They seem to be dead set on not letting Jameis Winston play for any money. I don't know. Well, sure. So I'll throw that name out there. I'm not super high on it, but it's somebody. I'll take 4,800 Taysom Hill over, like, maybe half a game with. I can't even think of a name off the top of my head. Definitely not going to go with Mike Glennon at that point.
That's interesting. He's only eligible at QB for DraftKings.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder.
Very
Well, good.
Just interesting. There's a lot to go on to there. I don't like this game from a fantasy standpoint in many aspects at all.
No.
Parlay, you can build one because you can build a parlay just about for any game. But DFS wise, this isn't a huge ceiling. You're going on dart throws. I don't like Chris Olave, who's just under 5K on DK. He hasn't been stellar since Jameis Winston left, it seems.
Yeah, he's also been a little hurt, and he's on the up and up. But yeah, I agree. I'm not high on him.
Next game, Vikings at the Bears. I think I have that one right again. I didn't check it. This one actually makes a little bit of a difference. Yes, Vikings at Bears. Minnesota 5.5 point favorites, over under updated at 42.5. My leg day at the gym, Vikings winning by 9, alternate spread. We would take a -9 for that. Another one, Dalvin Cook over 50 rush yards. Again, Bears bad versus the rush. DFS, Minnesota's defense, 2,900 on DK, 3,700 on FanDuel. This is probably my second defensive option behind the Cowboys, just because the Cowboys don't need to play a lot of people who are their stars in the defense, and they're good.
Yeah, Cowboys just a tad pricey, but.
Well, again, not a lot of pay-up options, so you can afford to go pricey in some spots. And I think for 1,000 on defense, you're not really hurting too much. Kirk Cousins, 6,500 on DK, 7,700 on FanDuel. Yeah, 25th best defense that you're facing off against is Kirk Cousins. You have so many weapons. The blowout factor would be what I would, again, with these playoff teams, you just don't know. Which is why I'm avoiding. And honestly, Dalvin Cook is a stretch at 50 yards. You may see more Alexander Madison, especially after halftime. So. I got about 3 minutes left. Ravens at Bengals. Cincinnati 9.5 point favorites, over under 39.5. My leg day is Joe Mixon for a touchdown. I know the Ravens are good against the run. Joe Mixon, he's been heavily involved in both. Well, not heavily involved in the past game, but he's been involved in the past game, and obviously he's their RB1. My DFS target is Mark Andrews, 5,400 on DK, 7,100 on FanDuel. He's my number 2 target for DFS on a tight end basis. Last game, Chargers, Broncos. Denver somehow 3-point favorites, over under 39.5. Chargers will probably sit everybody. I put my leg day as Austin Eckler, but as an anytime touchdown. If he doesn't play a lot, which I don't think he will, I'm reverting this to Isaiah Spiller. Isaiah Spiller's my DFS target, 4,800 DK, 4,800 FanDuel. Latavius Murray is a good DFS target, 5,400 on DK. Albert Alguagwan,
Yeah,
29.
Guimian.
Don't swear at me. 2,900 on DK, 5K on FanDuel. I probably will avoid this game. Just saying.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. It's too much question. I don't like Denver's offense. The defenses are probably going to be like, nah, I don't care. And like you mentioned in the pre-show, if Baltimore, they'll know by the time they start their game if Baltimore's lost. If Baltimore loses, they have nothing to play for. They're locked in the fifth.
Right.
So that's going to do it for this entire slate. That's going to do it for our betting and DFS show. There's about 90 seconds left. Any other thoughts you want to add, Taylor?
No, I think we had a good jam-packed show here. A lot of good information. Just really, if you are playing any sort of betting, DFS, etc., pay attention because things are going to change a lot.
You know
Just
what?
stay on top of it.
I'm going to change it. We're going to do a small part 3. Actually, it's not even a change. It's because I forgot that I was doing it and I didn't show it. We're going to do a small part 3. And I'll
right.
screenshot. I'm going to build a couple DFS lineups. And we're going to go through it based on what I'm going to put in. I won't really parlays, but I'll build a couple DFS lineups. I'll screen share so you guys can see it. And then we'll have a little bit of week 18 fun that way. Will I win money on them? I never do. But is it so much fun?
Should we do a head-to-head?
You're going to have to screenshot yours or screen share yours. But if you want to, I'm all in. Who wins? Is it based on money or points?
We'll just go points.
Oh, okay. I will still lose. It's going to be great. Well, in that case, Taylor, sign us off one time. We'll come back. We'll do like a little 10-minute head-to-head. It's going to be
All
so
right.
much fun.
We'll see you all on the flip.
And welcome back to part 3. It's Derek and Taylor doing our thing, doing our fantasy football thing. We're here. We're gonna build some lineups just to finish out the video. We have both in some way crafted or at least signed up for the same contest on DraftKings. We took a little organization, but here we are. So, you want me to go first? Is that what you were?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to screen share. I hope my mic, just for fair, we tested this earlier and my mic got quiet for some reason. I've turned it up a little bit for this. I don't know if it'll work. So I'm going to try and speak clearly. And I know I can still hear Taylor, but we'll figure it out as we go along. So I'm going to start the screen share. Once we go into the Edge tab. Ta-da. There we go.
Boom.
And now you can hear me, right?
But you are quiet. It's all right. We'll roll with it.
I kind of figured I was quiet. Here, I'll turn the mic up a little bit more. Hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. So just doing 2-quarter entries here. This is the 15-game slate starting at 8:15 tonight. That is the Jacksonville, Tennessee game that goes all the way through Sunday Night Football. So I'm going to draft both my lineups on screen so you can see them. We'll slide in here. Like we talked about earlier, a lot of really good options as far as who you can trust. I mean, just point blank. My first lineup is going to be built around Aaron Rodgers. Josh Allen is the first name that I looked at, and I read the wrong one. Aaron Rodgers, 6,000 price tag, as it says it's said on the left side, 32nd ranked opponent. My next for the running back, I'm going down to the 6,100 Najee Harris. Again, big plus side versus Cleveland. My second running back, Zach Moss. I'm going to go there. It's not really where is he? There it is. It's not really the most amazing play, but he's been okay, and I hope he will fall into the end zone this week. Just being fair. My 3 wide receivers. Number 1, I'm going Christian Kirk, 6,200 on DraftKings. Line him up. I like his receiving ability. The price is not bad if Tennessee continues to not guard wide receivers. For the stack purpose, I'm going with Romeo Dobbs. He is 4,400. It's right down here. I do like him a little more than Christian Watson if the game goes a different direction. So I don't know if I said this to Taylor. I'm not changing my lineups no matter what happens. I'm just going to let them go. I don't care if you change them or not. It's not like we're playing for anything, anything other than like who scores the most points.
Yeah.
I am going to go with Romeo Dobbs here. The other option is Alan Lazard. He's right there, 5,500. Not a bad play either. My third wide receiver is one that we've talked about ad nauseum almost. Way down here at the 3,300 spot, right there, Tyquan Thornton. I like that price tag. For the tight end position, I'm sure it is no surprise. I talked him up. I have a feeling he will score a touchdown. It is the number one tight end option here, 31st ranked opponent at Arizona, George Kittle. I, at this point, like to go to the defense and skip the flex. And it allows you to see what money you have left over, being that the defense is the lowest. It is the cheapest, even for the top option. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. They have a rookie quarterback and an opponent. They are missing some pieces on the defensive end. I think there's a momentum factor at that point. So I'm going Cowboys. My flex option here, Austin Eckler, chance of missing half the game. Tyreek Hill going to be missing his number one quarterback. And then that leaves me with Jamar Chase. And I think it's either Jamar Chase or Derrick Henry. Both of these are solid options, in my opinion. I'm going to go with the wide receiver at this point, knowing the difference in offenses. So I will go with Jamar Chase. This is my first lineup. So I will update that right quick. And then I'm going to just do lineup 2. And I will have those lined up at one point or another. I will show them. I believe it says it on the right side of the screen so that you can see them. For my second lineup, another quarterback who has to play well tonight. Will probably be on the field most of the game. Trevor Lawrence, 6,100 on DraftKings. Yeah, and open shot for me. The second player, first running back. I'm gonna pay up for Derrick Henry. He was the other option on the flex spot on lineup 1. Going right back to him here for the running back slot. My second running back, I'm going to dip into the well. Following the Austin Eckler prediction that he does not play the entire game, my next options for that replacement would either be 5,600 Josh Kelly right here. I'm going to pay down even further, and I'm going to go to Isaiah Spiller, another rookie. Why not? Said it was ranked 24th versus Denver is versus Rush. I don't understand that because I think they're a pretty good Rush team, but it is what it is. For my wide receivers, I'm going to stack. I went with him in lineup 1. I'm going to go with him in lineup 2. If I can find him, because I think I just went past him. Yes, I did. He's right there. Christian Kirk. The Lawrence Kirk stack. I'm actually going to skip down to the tight end real quick, and I'm going to complete the double stack and go with Evan Ingram. I do have both of these as overs on current parlays of mine. Over 52.5 for Evan Ingram, over 68 for Christian Kirk. Zay Jones is also in that. I don't know if he'll go over. He could be the one who has the 150-yard game. I feel like Christian Kirk should be able to step up in this matchup. And I like him. I like Ingram because of his past game experience versus the Titans this year. My other 2 wide receivers aren't really huge pay-up options either. Down here, 5,600, Christian Watson. I'll go the opposite. Again, kind of just securing myself some of these pieces that if things go one way, one lineup will be good. If things go the other way, the other lineup will be good. Watson over Dobbs in this one. And then my other option here for wide receiver is $3,500 Corey Davis. right there. This leaves me a truckload of money for my last two spots. Once again, bring the flex, going to the defensive position. I'm going to take, if I don't scroll my page too much further, I'm going to take the Vikings here, 2,900. It's a gamble. We know that. Vikings defense is not the Cowboys or the Eagles or the Patriots. The Eagles defense would be another one I would look at here just as a dart throw. Not even a dart throw, because you know they're a good defense, but they were iffy the last two games. And that leaves me 8,400 on my flex spot. I'm going to save some salary here. I'm not going to go maxing it out up here. I could, potentially take a stab at Jamar Chase again and fill out every single dollar, but you will probably have a lineup that someone else has at that point. You max out the less amount of money. Excuse me. Let's start that again. The more money you have left, the less a chance that someone else will have your lineup, within reason. Obviously, you don't want to leave $4,000 on the table.
Right.
I was looking at Dalvin Cook here for 7,300. Again, game script may write him out. Joe Mixon is in the pool. I don't hate that. DK Metcalf would also be a halfway decent option. But I think I'm going to stick with my original gut and go Dalvin Cook.
Can I throw out one other name?
Sure.
Did you consider T. Higgins? Same game as Chase, just the other potential beneficiary of having Burrows.
So where is he anyway in here?
He's 7,600.
Is he up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit 76. 21st. Not a bad. Leaves 800 on the table. Probably would limit half a percentage of entries to. That's not a bad play.
I mean,
don't
let me change where you were going, but yeah, just.
Well, the other name here is, and then it would absolutely no one else would have this lineup, would be throwing in $6,100 Najee Harris, who I'm a huge fan of this week. That's also a possibility. And I actually like Najee a little more than Cook. So ignoring price, upside, and potential what you're playing for matters. So I'm going to go Najee. It does leave a little bit of room on the salary that I don't like. I probably would like to be closer to 1,500. I'm wondering if instead of Christian Watson, there's another pay up option here that I do like, and there is a couple other pay up options that I like. Metcalf or Lockett. Again, that must play scenario, that must win scenario to go in is going to matter. You'll see the fantasy points per game edges in favor of Lockett. I'm going to go with Lockett here. I'll update my entry. Leaves me exactly 1,500 where I want to be. My two lineups.
If he's healthy, that's who Gino has mostly favored. Not to say that Metcalf's a bad play, but Lockett has definitely been getting more quality targets, I think.
Agreed. Lineup one: Rodgers, Najee Harris, Zach Moss, Romeo Doubs, Christian Kirk, Tyquan Thornton, George Kittle, Jamar Chase, Cowboys defense.
So
lineup
you went two double stacks, both your lineups?
Technically, Rodgers and Doubs. This one's a little bit more thrown together because Doubs is the wide receiver one option. And there's a way I can pay for him in this lineup. The second lineup is definitely a double stack because of Ingram and Kirk. I could pay down, swap Kirk with Zay Jones here and leave 1,900, which would allow me to actually go after a different running back here instead of Spiller. But I think I'm going to stick with it. I like Christian Kirk's chances this week. I like what Evan Ingram does. But yes, double stacks. And then the second lineup: Lawrence, Henry, Spiller, Davis, Kirk, Lockett, Ingram, Najee Harris, and the Vikings defense. And this is definitely a lineup that I think I would say less than 0.5% of the field would come close to this because of the amount of money left and because of Spiller's ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And even maybe Corey Davis. Those two would in the Vikings defense. So yeah. I'm gonna say less than 1% or 0.5% for that one. This one I will probably, because of the $500, the names that are on it, I would say it's probably close to 1.5% lineup share.
Oh, I'm sorry. This one's not. I thought you said Watson for some reason. I thought you went Dobbs and Watson, but yeah, this one's not a double stack.
No, this is just Dobbs. And then I want the ceiling of Kittle and Chase. So
Yeah. Good stuff. Good
there's my
stuff.
lineups. Taylor, on to you.
All right. Does that work? All
There
right.
you go.
Just want to make sure I wasn't going to also share us. So I have a similar, actually, I think we ended up going both same QBs. This lineup, I almost went Geno, but just looking at the upside of Lawrence, I don't think Geno's, I mean, we can check, but I don't think Geno has gotten into the 30-point range. He's been the high 20s. Yeah. He had one game in the 30s against Detroit, go figure. Lawrence on the
Tells
other.
you made the right quarterback choice on the other side.
Right, yeah. But Lawrence, I mean, in the past, 4 weeks, he has 2 30-point games. So I like that upside there. More, I guess, recency bias. But anyways, that was where I went QB, and that was the thinking there. Najee, as we touched on, just the value and the potential, really like that. Moss, not my favorite play, but I like the matchup and hopefully something that other tournament players aren't looking at heavily as like a chalk play, just because he is kind of pricey for what we think he might do. And then I did go T. Higgins. I mean, maybe other people are going there because he's a better value than Chase, but I guess that was sort of my thinking as well. Ayuk was a last minute add, so I'll come back to him. Shaheed was one of my value plays at wide receiver. Ingram, my stack with Lawrence. Akers, also kind of a last minute addition. The usage is great, so I thought I'd throw in that just for some high usage. And then Ayuk without, and I don't know, like Debo is, I think, available. Oops. Yeah, he is. But doesn't say one way or the other whether he plays. So that may be a bad decision. But without Debo, I think Kittle could have a decent game here. If Debo plays, maybe not so much. But we were talking about this before. I don't see why they don't just give him another rest. They don't need a lot of weapons against Arizona.
No.
And then for the defense, I usually, and Derek made a good point. Once you've filled in a decent amount, try to do your defense so you can see what kind of cash you got left. I usually do the defense pretty early on, even before I only have the flex left. And I always try to punt at defense. So, and then I look for good opportunities. So for me, the punt option that has a good opportunity was the Jets, but I had a little extra cash, so I swapped it to the Vikings here. For my other lineup, I had
real
Yep.
quick before you hit the second lineup. I like the mid range. Can you go back to that first one?
Can I? This thing is in the way here. Let me see. There we go.
Okay, so that first lineup, I like the price ranges. So you aren't dipping into the threes, which is, they're threes for a reason. They're the dart throws that we talk about. Look at, the price. Your highest price is 7,600. You have 2 really good mid-tier ceiling options, 3 really good mid-tier ceiling options, and Najee Harris, Trevor Lawrence, and Cam Akers. I like the dual running back between those two. I like 3 running backs in this case. This, to me, this week doesn't scream dual tight end. So
Right.
where you have tight end in the spot, tight end in the flex. If you're gonna pick one with a ceiling and hit a wide receiver who's going to have, there's more ceiling value at wide receiver and running back this week, in my opinion. I like the construction of that lineup. Ayuk, I was not afraid to go to either. I just think for that price range, if you're leaving cash on the table, I feel like there's something else you can go to. I like Higgins. I like your swap from Chase to Higgins as well.
Yeah,
So.
I actually initially had Kittle instead of Ingram, and then I was going to look at one of Kirk or Jones, but I just like the way that this ended up going better. And honestly, this is the second lineup I made. This was to be a little more contrary or against alternates, I guess, from my other lineup. And that was one of the reasons I went with Ayuk, is just to be contrarian. I don't know how many people are going to play Ayuk, to your point, at that price point.
Right. I like it.
Yeah. So this was my first lineup. Also had Rodgers. Najee, again, just can't get away from that value for what we think he's going to do. And then I went with Mitchell, kind of based on what we talked about before, with San Francisco potentially resting McCaffrey and not needing all their weapons. He may get some usage. And where did I go next? I went my value guy here, Corey Davis, as you had. And then I did have, so actually this is a good point. Watson was in my wide receiver spot. I swapped him down to the flex after my lineup was finished because they are the last game. And with all the stuff that may be going on, I just wanted to leave my flex to be the last game, as we do in our redraft leagues, just so I had that option if I needed to swap somebody out.
Right.
And then here again, you can see I went with the Jets, sort of where my defense starting point is. I do have money. I could change them. I'm going to leave them as the Jets. Higbee, Seattle is the best matchup at tight end, so why not? Also relatively cheap. And then that really left me a lot of money. So I just went in on some good receivers, Jefferson being the main guy I went on, and then CeeDee Lamb. I think people might look at Lamb and the matchup against Washington, which is not great, but Lamb has actually been getting some decent work or usage in the slot, even though that's not necessarily where people see him and that's not necessarily where he's known to play. But he's been getting some usage in the slot, which is actually a weak point of Washington's defense. So obviously the number one receiver on Dallas should have a decent game if that's the case. So that was the thinking for this lineup here.
This is almost compared to your first lineup or second, whatever it is. This is your first lineup compared to the first lineup we saw.
Right.
This is almost a dual contrarian. You have opposite pieces from the point of Elijah Mitchell, Christian Watson, the Jets defense. You're swapping them interpositionary, similar price point. If one doesn't do good, the other probably will. That type of idea.
Mm-hmm.
You also have more ceiling and floor options here. So when I
Mhm.
say dual contrarian, instead of that last lineup, which was much more midfield, and I think in this week that's going to be the more successful lineup. Justin Jefferson may not play the entire game. There's really no reason for him to. They don't move anywhere. They're not going to fall to fourth. I don't think they can catch San Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco has the easiest of the matchups between any of the teams they could move to. So that I don't think will happen. So same thing for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb may not play this entire game, but if there's a reason that they have to, either one of them, they're going to play. Justin Jefferson, the only argument for Justin Jefferson is that he has 100, and I did the math on Wednesday's show, 160 some yards to break Calvin Johnson's record.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good reason to leave him out there. The question comes if you're going to play Kirk Cousins that much, because if you're not playing Kirk Cousins, it kind of damages that opportunity for him. So there's things for him to play for. It's not where you went and the reasons that they could play. I like. So
Yeah.
two interesting lineups. I like both of the builds. I like both of the ideals behind them. Now, real quick, why Corey Davis over Tyquan Thornton?
Honestly, I guess I hadn't really considered Thornton, but Davis with Flacco throwing a lot should just I see a lot of potential for upside there.
I see a lot more. There's potential for upside. I think his floor is lower because there are other pieces. Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, and a pace up spot for the tight ends. Tyquan Thornton is probably the second option, especially if Myers sits. Him and Parker are going to end up sharing a lot of targets. So, but
Yeah.
I guess I suppose to the other side of that is that Davis and they both play at 1:00 on. Yeah, they both play at 1:00 tomorrow. So you'll know ahead of time. You would know ahead of time in a normal build. Okay, Jacoby Myers is out. Tyquan Thornton's $300. The extra salary, in my opinion, is going to gain you a 10th or 2 of percentage of no one having a similar lineup. This lineup, because of your low amounts of money left, not low amounts, your $500, and because of the popular names, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Aaron Rodgers, this probably has like a 3 to 5% chance of someone else having this lineup.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thornton, I mean, so yeah, just for anybody watching, obviously with tournaments, you want to go away from chalk unless said chalk is, going to be good value, going to be a good play. Everybody else is playing it. You throw in a couple chalk and then you look for these options elsewhere. And to your point, Thornton is probably someone that not a lot of people are playing for, probably the exact reasons I didn't play him against Buffalo. Not a team that throws the ball a lot, but he does get some, jet sweeps. He gets some running opportunity there. And he has been seeing an uptick in usage and snaps with other pieces being out. So not a bad contrarian play that has good upside, to your point.
And Davis, actually, even now that you say that, even Davis brings into the exact same reason you were playing him is the reason that I said other people probably aren't. Because there's a lot of other mouths to feed on that offense. But we saw Davis be a favorite of Flacco's earlier in the year.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
I don't hate he's edging towards the experience, which is smart from a Flacco point of view. I'm using my experience. Where is the experience? Because it's most experienced receiver out of those 4 names for the Jets is Corey Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good lineups. We'll just see how these play out between today and tomorrow. Just a little fun lineup build scenario that we've done. Now we can finally say that we are going to complete episode 35 after I faked this out because I forgot we were doing that. Wednesday show, Thursday show. Well, we're recording it Wednesday night. It'll be up Thursday night. Gonna go through the playoff matchups. We're gonna review, I think, basically just the top 6 games from this. I would imagine the games that matter.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the playoff matchups. We'll play a game of 4 downs again. And we will have our first episode of the Fantasy Flyer Parlay Builder Host v Host contest, which will last for the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, the wild card and the divisional round. And then our last final matchup for that will be the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is going to be worth a truck ton of points because why wouldn't it be? Anything else from you? Anything you want to add?
No. It's a fun, different show. I like it.
Yeah, very different. We will probably end up trying to do this more often, more frequently next year. I like this type of show, especially when you get into the mid-season injuries. This week is a little wild and kooky and crazy and, out in left field because it's the last week of the season and that's how this works. There's the most risk reward for most of your plays in just about every format this week. So, but yeah, next year maybe doing something more DFS builders on side episodes or what have you. I want to thank you for tuning in, listening. If you're on podcast, if you are on YouTube and watching, give us a like, give us a subscribe, like the Facebook page. My name is Derek. That's Taylor. We're going to listen to some Bob Barker. You guys have a good weekend. Enjoy some football. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.
Bob Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.